If you're watching the podcast, do not fret. Mike is on the podcast. Mike is on this pod. He's just not on the intro. We had to re-record the intro because we recorded the intro. For some reason, something got screwed up, but Mike is here for the pod. This is me for this part. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, but there's a lot of good information in this part, so you need to listen to this part. Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS and brought to you by LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process at briggsauction.com. Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process at 302-864-8643. And Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter with Zoe. Subscribe at rightstoRickySanchez.com/newsletter. On the show today, Danny Green joins us. Danny Green, former Sixer twice, originator of The Danny. And it is a great conversation with Danny. We talked to Danny about signing with Morey and the perception of Morey across the league, Joel, his memory of the Hawk series and playing with Ben. We even asked him about The Danny and the big mystery. Does Danny notice that I'm wearing a Danny Green Raining Threes Like a Boss t-shirt? You have to listen to find out. Great conversation with Danny. Danny has recently partnered with Audacy for his weekly podcast, Inside the Green Room, which we talk about as well, releasing episodes weekly on the Audacy app, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts are available. Danny also brought to us by Hyundai. Check out the all-new Hyundai 2024 Santa Fe, equipped for adventure with capable features like H-Track all-wheel drive and standard third-row seating. I did mention Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka. It is basically the summer, and when you turn on a Phil's game, what is the beverage you see in the crowd everywhere? You see Surfside. All different versions of Surfside. You see the iced tea and vodka. You see the lemonade and vodka. You see the iced tea, the lemonade and vodka. And it's really everywhere you go in this area, and it's spreading everywhere. I got an email this week about being down in Nashville, and he saw it everywhere. The reason that Surfside iced tea and vodka is everywhere is because it tastes great. And putting aside that there's only 100 calories, put aside that there's only 3 grams of sugar, it is the perfect amount of sweetness, and it does not have carbonation because iced tea should not have bubbles. You can try all the different varieties, the peach tea, the raspberry tea and vodka, by you go to your local place where you get that kind of stuff, and they'll likely have it, or you go to statesidevodka.com. You got to be 21 to drink it. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
So I don't know what warning they give you, but our podcast we've been around for 11 years, and we're a Sixers podcast. We started in the middle of the middle of the Hinkie era. So, a lot of what we'll talk to you about today is going to be from that perspective, and probably not 20 minutes of breakdown like Luka versus Jason Tatum. So just setting the expectation.
That's fine, man. That's a long time. Congrats, fellas, to be doing a podcast. I think I've been doing mine for 6 years now.
Oh, wow. That's a long time too, though.
Especially for
players. We were earlier in the game before. I think it was just I think JJ might have started. CJ and JJ were the only ones that around that time. Not everybody. But yeah, we've been keeping it alive for a while now. So 6 years is a long time. You guys have doubled that. So
do you like doing it inside the green room? Do you enjoy? Obviously, you've done it for 6 years, but curious, why you do it, why you decided to start it, and why you keep doing it.
I enjoy it. So I loved it more when I was with a team. I was able to interview my teammates and learn about my teammates, ask them questions that some of my group would do research on that nobody's asked them before. Obviously, questions people have asked before as well. But try to find questions that people don't know about them, learn about them. So it was a dope way to get to know my teammates and also give them a platform to have a voice. And for me, it's same to like vent and talk about the game publicly, and but also use a platform for different things. In terms of trying to make political change, possibly, or just movement, or trying to help your community. I try to help spread word with certain things, but just to talk sports, play GM for a day or so, and see what the feedback is, or give some different ideas out there. So it's a lot of fun. It's dope, but a lot easier and more fun when I was with certain groups.
Yeah, for sure. Were there questions that you wanted to ask your teammates and you were like, I got to save this for the podcast. This has to be too good. Is there, how do you play that a little bit?
I guess it's more because I started it right when I left San Antonio. So it was more so I wasn't that comfortable with them anyway before we started interviewing them. So like getting to know them in the locker room is different. It's like certain questions you're not just going to ask somebody you just meet, So it's easier for me or have my co-host do it. Or, say it's a podcast, so I got to ask these questions.
I got it. We have to. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? In the locker room, I'm not going to ask them some weird questions about or something I've seen unless I've known you for years. So the podcast was an excuse or, a way around it of kind of masking me getting into personal shit sometimes. Like you.
I'm actually curious about doing the pod while you're an active player, because as you mentioned, there's a lot of players that do it now. And I remember when you were on the Sixers, I don't remember the specific thing. I don't remember it being a huge deal, but something that you had said on the pod, we ended up talking about that I was like, I wonder what it's like to go into the locker room after talking about things publicly, or if I even Pat Bev, he'll say things and I'm like, what's that like, within the team dynamics? Do you think other players care what like teammates are saying on podcasts, or do you think
100%?
Okay. All right, good. Yeah.
Not all, some, it depends on who you are, what you say, but there's some sensitive guys in our league. It depends on how you talk about them or share what that information is that they don't want to be shared. So I'm sure some feel a certain way. You look at Jeff Teague or Draymond and some of the stories that Jeff Teague shares, some guys are probably not okay with, you know what I'm saying? Like, but he sets it up for it's funny and doesn't make them look bad. But if there's certain stories where guys just tell a story, usually they try to leave guys' names out of it. But some guys will critique other guys, or they'll speak on the other team, or Draymond will speak on it during the playoffs where what he sees and giving the media more than they should, or the other team more than they should, like with knowledge of what he sees of how they're guarding certain people. So I'm sure some teammates aren't fully in agreement with it. So some teammates don't like it. But for me, even said Pat Bev, like he'll throw some things out there, might stir the kitchen up a little bit. For me, I never really shared any secrets that were in the locker room. The things that I shared were pretty obvious, and just my opinion on other teams, like when it came to matchups, playoffs matchups, and of course, confidently speaking on my team. I didn't say what we would do. I wouldn't give up any schemes. I would compliment my teammates, what I'd seen or from them or what I knew about them. And, that I would use a platform to like promote them, who should be an all-star, who should get recognition, who should be doing this. So in that sense, I think a lot of guys enjoy it. I think for the most part, because I think everybody has a podcast, really tries to big up their teammates. But some other guys that are no longer teammates with certain groups, like they'll speak on previous teams. I'm sure some guys are not. So, because you see there's like random little social media beefs that guys may have because they speak on each other. But I said, when I came in the locker room, I don't think that they looked at me in a weird way because I think they trusted me. They knew I wasn't sharing certain things. But some guys, they would look at certain guys like, yeah, I don't know if I want to be fully open with this dude because he's going to share it on social media. He's going to share it on the media. Yeah, he's going to put it on the pod. So it's like, yeah, watch out. That's the media right there. Basically, like that's 5-0. That's the police. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes they'll make jokes. Some guys will make jokes like, oh, that's the media right there. And I'm like, yo, I'm not the fucking media right now. But they do that to mess with you. But there's some guys that probably do act like that with some of their teammates because everything that they hear, everything that they experience, or everything that they say is coming from their experiences within the locker room before. I'm sure most of them will probably ask, but some of them just share. You know what I'm saying? And some guys are like, yo, what the Like that's a experience, or that's something that happened I did not want the world to know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But they're smart about it. A lot of guys do it more sharing and more talking shit when they're retired, or they wait to share the story when that guy that they're speaking of is no longer playing anymore. So yeah, that makes it a little more safe. But yes, for sure, some guys are sensitive to certain things, and some guys are not comfortable with certain things being said or being heard or being presented on a podcast.
Or how online are you as a player? And are there people that you've played with that are like disastrously online? Like all up in
Like on social media?
Yeah, every comment, reading everything, like really taking it to heart. Like what is that like, and how do you weigh that? And how do
I think
guys weigh that?
I think most guys are averagely online quite a bit, and I think it's not because you say reading like comments about themselves I think we just have to, especially for me, we have to keep up with the times. You have to keep up with what's going on. You know, like you have to see what's viral. What can you speak on? What you can relate to? It's just like not knowing classical movies. If people are referencing movie lines and you've never seen Jerry Maguire, you're like, what the hell is he talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like you kind of look like you live in a bubble if you don't know what's the trending thing. So for most of us, it's just like seeing the trending thing, also keeping up with other games, other, you know, like what's happening, what they're being said about other people, you know, in other parts of the profession. It's like, oh, you know, so-and-so, Rudy's getting killed right now. I'm wondering what Twitter's saying about Rudy. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of thing. You know, internet's undefeated. So they're always going to make a meme or some type of, you know, clip of anything that they find of anyone that talks trash or that doesn't speak. So that's why I try to stay out of that field, because it's always going to bite you in the ass. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's always going to come full circle.
But they know, like when you do something on the court that you're like, fuck, that's gonna be somewhere. Like what? Yeah. Like how quickly does that thought come into your head?
Right at today's game, right after it happens, it wasn't a thought when I was, you know, in San Antonio. The social media wasn't that big. Shaqtin' a Fool when he started making Shaqtin' a Fool. It's like certain plays. But now that it's streamed everywhere, and depending on what the stage is, a regular season, everybody's watching everything. And people, some of their jobs now is just to find these funny ass clips. So as soon as it happens, I'm sure guys are like, damn, that's going to be all over the internet. Whether it's a regular season game on a Tuesday night against somebody, it doesn't matter. But definitely for sure in a playoff game, you better believe people are cutting and clipping this and putting it in every meme, GIF, however you want to, you know, describe it, cutting into a movie scene. So I think I'm fairly active on social media, but it's not like to read comments, bad comments about myself. Sometimes guys use it as motivation, but it's more so now to keep up with the times, keep up what's going viral, and to see what people are seeing or saying. You know, my job now is part of the media. So like what angles, what perspective hasn't been said, or what angles or perspective has been said, like what stats are being pointed. I use it for the news, basically. So I scroll Twitter for the news, Instagram for funny reels and parenting tips, you know, that type of thing. And keeping up with my friends mostly, but I wouldn't say I'm disastrously. There's some guys that are disastrously on their phones and TikTok, go down a rabbit hole all day type of thing. So that's not me, but yeah, there's a lot of guys that are on social media heavy.
My sense is that like the too quick and too constant access to fans has made NBA players like fans less. And the irony of it is that 99 out of the 100 people that say something shitty to a player online, if they met them in person, it would be a great interaction.
Yeah, way different. And half of them probably fake pages, you know, like.
Yep. Do you feel like it has created like animosity between the social media has created animosity between players and fans?
100%. I think it was easier to enjoy your city without the social, you know, like, before social media got big, you didn't see the negativity, and you only saw it was when they cheer for you in your arena, San Antonio, Toronto. But I said if I never saw the social media, I would never think like there's people that didn't like me in Toronto. You know, I thought because they were just so great of a fan base in San Antonio, same so great of a fan base. When you get in the arena, they just cheer you on. There was never like Philly different. They'll boo you to your face, you know. So when I got in those arenas, it's like, oh, it was all love, and they always showed love. But so there's always a small group of idiots that's going to be online, that's going to talk trash or say something to try to get under your skin, or you know that's going to hate on you. So that's just part of the world, comes with the business. But yes, the access has, and now with the betting thing, everybody's like, oh, this guy's playing well, and they might love you to death, but the day that they bet on you is the day that you don't have the game that you need them to have. And now they have some animosity toward you. And if it happens more than once, now they're like, yo, what the fuck, man? You owe me some money. Like, they're in your inbox saying some stupid shit like, yo, bro, I don't care about your bet. Like, that's not why I'm playing. I'm not playing to make sure you meet your parlay.
Right.
I'm playing to win. And I'm also trying to feed my family. So, of course, I want to do well. I'm not doing it on purpose. Trust me. If I could get the numbers you wanted me to get, I would do it, without a thought. But it's not that easy. So, yeah. It's a different world now with the social media and then the gambling aspect of it added to it.
We take a break from this conversation with Danny Green, which is awesome. Isn't it awesome so far, to talk to you about LL Pavorsky Jewelers, the original sponsor of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. When we didn't have any sponsors, LL begged us to be a sponsor. We let him be a sponsor. We wouldn't even let him pay us. He had to just pay the charities. And he was right. And honestly, he was right for you, for the listener. You cannot go to any other place to get an engagement ring from LL. Over 400 Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners have gotten engagement rings from LL. Mike got his engagement ring for Alyssa from LL. I didn't get mine because I didn't know about LL when I got engaged, but several anniversary gifts for Val from LL. He's going to treat you with respect. He's not going to pressure you, no matter what your price range is, from $1,000 from an engagement ring to $100,000 for an engagement ring. If we get one of the 100,000 ones, we should get like a thank you note from Lee or something. But anyway, he treats everyone the same, which is one-on-one service, no pressure, tons of respect. And so much so that if you want to buy an engagement ring, he wants you to make an appointment so he can know more about what your situation is before he talks to you, and so he can give you one-on-one time. Make one of those appointments by giving him a call, 215-627-2252. He's been at 707 Walnut for coming close to 4 decades. Unbelievable. Send him an email, lee@llpavorsky.com. Tweet at him @llpavorsky. And he's a generous supporter of our charities, which are Providence Animal Center and Mama T's Community Fridge. Mike's not here to do the thing. He did a really funny one. It was LL Pavorsky Jewelers had to do it to him. It's a funny joke if you get it. Now back to the interview. You signed with the Sixers twice. Daryl Morey signed you. Actually, the first time wasn't Morey. Was it the first time Morey? I'm trying to remember.
No, it was Morey each time.
Okay, so you signed with
3
Daryl.
times.
You signed with
Daryl.
Daryl.
Was traded, signed, and then signed again. Yeah.
Right. So you signed with Daryl twice, and then you did sign for, you played with Nick Nurse in Toronto, and then signed a play on here in 23-24 with Nick again. I guess the question is two-pronged, is how much do you think you and a player thinks about whether they like the GM or not, and whether they like the coach or not when they're deciding to sign somewhere?
I think the coach is bigger part of the equation. When they see themselves in a system, it's like, the GM is kind of an afterthought. Most GMs aren't like that known or in the forefront or have done things where it's like, oh, I don't know if I trust that guy. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing. So most of the time it's like coaching, and the system's like, oh, he coached here. He had a great system. Oh, Dan Tony, like to get up threes, Steve Kerr. Like, they look at coaching staff like, can I fit there more so than anything? That's a big part of the equation when it comes to if you're a free agent making your change or making a decision to go there. In most aspects, the GM is a really way afterthought, unless it's somebody of substance that's known for doing great things or bad things. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or to owners as well. Like, most owners you don't know unless it's like Mark Cuban. You're like, oh, Mark Cuban's great. I hear they take care of their guys. So-and-so is great over in Portland. I heard that they really, they're not afraid to spend the dollar. Like, certain things like that. Like, oh, they're not afraid to spend a dollar. They make sure that their guys get what they need. But the GMs usually are on the forefront. You don't hear bad or negative things, or even positive, like that much about them. But Daryl, just I wouldn't say certain cases, but a lot of cases he's gotten the media as of recent, more so since the whole China deal with the tweet. And then people kind of didn't look upon him. Then the stories came out with certain players. So because there's a lot of negative energy around it, you're going to hear more about it. And then guys are probably a little more leery to trust the situation. But most guys don't know every GM and you meet them when you get traded, you meet them when they're recruiting you, but you don't know much about them. Daryl is a different situation. I think a lot of guys know about Daryl because of past experience and how certain things have been handled the way some guys have not liked.
Yeah, it was funny at first. The Daryl Morey is a liar. James Harden situation where
the video is forever funny.
The video is hilarious.
Yeah.
And then having it on a sign in the club was really funny. It was good. But as Sixers fans and people that want Daryl to, especially now this offseason, like bring in another big fish to finally get over the hump. Like, do you feel like that is a factor, like reputationally, and how much James is publicly going against him?
100%. I mean, are you shitting me? If I'm Paul George and I'm teammates with James Harden right now, and I hear the stories about Daryl, and I hear the stories about everybody else, would I trust a guy like that to, put my career in his hands, type of deal? I mean, it comes down to obviously your career's in your hands and the coach's hands more so than Daryl. But like, there has a lot of, when it comes to trades or contracts and things like that. Now, when you're just dealing a contract, it's like certain things. So I do a contract with Daryl, I'm gonna make sure like I'm protected. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're a guy like that, it's like, I can't do any this or that, because you just never know what's gonna happen. I don't think he's a bad guy. I just think he sees numbers. He doesn't see people, or players as such. He sees them as pieces of I need to move or make a formula to where I can get a winning situation. So that's part of his job. It's every GM's job. Some people do it differently. Some, do it. Some do it the same. But so Daryl has some stories attached to him and some things and some actions, I think, across with everybody, where it's like, it's hard to trust him. Like, would I put myself in that situation again? Or would I do it in the first place? Like, some guys that are going there, it's like, all right, would I go back there? And guys that never been there, it's like, would I put myself in that type of situation when I don't know this man or I don't trust him and he doesn't have the best interest out for me? Which is that most don't, but they will have some interest for the player. Mostly the organization and some of the player. Where I think with Daryl, it's like, it's less, so some GMs are like probably 70-30 or 60-40. Daryl might be 80-20. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing when it comes to organization player, where he puts the efforts. For me, it's like, I can see why a big fish or somebody like that would be like, I don't know about that situation. Let me look at other scenarios. Like, unless Daryl's throwing boatloads of money at him for them to overlook that, you're going to have to overpay, I think, because of the people dealing with the contracts. And the scenario is like, a lot of people probably don't trust him.
You were here for the Sixers for, there's really like two COVID seasons. There was the bubble and then there's the post-bubble season. So you were there for the post-bubble season, which was crazy. And in one game, I went to find the game. In one game, you played 49 minutes, took 25 shots, scored 29 points, and won.
That's the Miami game. We had like 6 guys. Yeah, I remember that game.
Yeah, I was going to ask what you remember about that game and that season. And it was just like, to us, it was so funny. It was like, look at Danny. He's like one of the oldest players on the team. He's like fucking Iron Man this year, playing every minute. So what do you remember about that game and that season?
Season was kind of crazy. I remember it being such a short turnaround. I think that's probably why I got injury at the end of that season. We were in the bubble till the end of it. So I got out in October and we started the season in December. It's like we got a month and a half off, if that 2 months, maybe like 6 weeks, like we were right back into it. So it was crazy. That game was even crazier. I think it might have been on a back-to-back. Like, we lost guys. We had 6 guys. We're playing Dakota. We playing, like, I'm saying, like a bunch of some two-way G League guys we had to play up. And it went into overtime. So that's why 49 minutes happened. Yeah. Me taking 25 shots is absurd. That's something I've never done. I don't think I've ever done. I think 21 of them were threes,
They were,
Yeah,
but
awesome.
I had Ben with me. Ben was feeding me. And I think I was like 9 for 16 or 9 for like 18 or something like that. 9 for 16. Yes, 9 for 16 that I missed. I was trying to get the record. So they kept feeding me at that point because the record was 10, like 10 for the organization. And I missed like my next 5. So I ended up being like 9 for 21. So the percentage looked really great at a time. And then it just looked average, guys. I thought he shot 21 threes, but it was obviously we're trying to win the game. But within the game, most of my shots are perimeter shots, threes. So I got a lot of open shots. And I just remember I couldn't make, there's like 2 in and outs, a couple great looks. I just couldn't get that 10th one to go down. And Dakota, I remember Dakota hitting, I think his last name's Matthews, hitting the three for us to win the game in overtime. And then I think they let him go like a week later, which was crazy. But we won that game and said I had to shoot a lot of shots, which was great, 49 minutes. But for me, it was never, like I said, I've played a lot of minutes before. I played a number of games. Like I wasn't the guy to sit out games. Obviously, I was older at this point, but in San Antonio, I've had a number of seasons where it's 78 to 80 to 81. You know, I don't think might have played 82 once, but playing that many games and overtime games where I've played, I think my record might be 52 minutes. I don't know. I'm not sure. But yeah, so the minutes weren't crazy. But in that time where we had some back-to-backs or like less bodies, that's when it was like, yo, I don't know if I can. But at 32, I think I was 32 at the time. I thought I could handle it. And right now, like if I was 35, 36, like a year ago, I'd be like, nah, there's no way. Like if you guys want me to see me tomorrow or play me in this next week, like I can't play 49 minutes. You know what I'm saying? I think the most I give you 35, 40 if we get into overtime, but 40 plus. So the biggest thing is recovery for older guys, and you know your limits when you get older. It's like, I know I'm gonna feel that tomorrow. I'm gonna need a game off or a day off. Like if you need me healthy for this stretch, you better keep the minutes at this type of restriction.
Yeah, because of injuries to like Melton and Covington and a couple things that didn't, you know, Buddy Hield that didn't maybe work out for acquisitions. The Sixers were relying on Kyle Lowry and Nick Batum for big minutes this playoff
the older
run.
guys, yeah.
What do you think that was like for them?
I think it was awesome. I mean, I'm sure they're not turning it down. They love to play. They love to hoop. When you're older, it's not about the money. You just want to play and be in those situations. In the playoffs, you know, that's what you live for. I'm sure their bodies were a little different, but you know, ultimately they're showcasing that they're still very capable and they can do it. And they probably deserve another contract. You know what I'm saying? So when you're older, you don't mind, especially in the playoffs. The regular season is a little different. I don't think you mind it at all, but you just got to be smart about it. You don't want injuries, and you want to be healthy and fresh by the time playoff comes. So I thought it was awesome, man. I thought it was great. I thought they could have used Buddy more. I don't know I don't remember him ever getting injured. I just thought, you know, they kind of took him out the rotation, starting rotation early, and then he came off the bench and only played a lump sum of minutes, you know, just a brief amount of minutes. And then the playoff time, they kind of just thought they couldn't play him. You know, Nick shortened the rotation. But the other guys, being hurt or some guys being sent home. I didn't even know where Rocco was at. I didn't see him. So I was seeing where he's on the bench. I don't know what his injury was. Melt, I was like, I didn't know how serious his back injury was. I was like, damn, he's out for so long. Yeah. When does he come back? And he's a key opponent. Like, he's a key piece. Like, if you don't have him to guard other people, you're in a lot of trouble. Like, totally different prediction from me, totally different series from them if you have Melt healthy, if you have everybody healthy. But for sure, Melt, like, he was a big piece of why they're so successful early on and why they could win games and why they can match up, because he can guard and he can shoot the three. So for him to be out for so long and not have a rhythm, I felt, bad for him and for the group not to have everybody healthy. But it was great to see the old guys, man. They letting people know that, we could still get them down and still play, get on the floor and be valuable to a team. So even PJ, when he was here or when he left, I thought he could be valuable to, like, he could still hoop. Over in LA, they kind of didn't use him that well, but it was good to see when older guys are still getting the respect and the opportunity.
Yeah, I missed PJ. I was a big PJ fan when he was here.
I'm sure a lot of people missed him when he was gone. When he was there, they're like, oh, he doesn't score, he doesn't shoot. But when he's gone, it's like, oh, we could use another body right now that could rebound, another guy that can be physical, especially in that New York series. We need somebody to get, gritty. We need somebody to, get in somebody's face. So, like, we need some toughness. Right now, we're missing that toughness. So, most guys are those type, like, you miss those guys when they're gone. That's what type of guys they are. Like, when you have them, you take them for granted. But when they're gone, you're like, damn, we could really use this guy right now.
Has that ever happened to you when you're like, the Sixers lost that series for a bunch of reasons, but a lot because they just couldn't fucking rebound, and the Knicks just come in and just
that out, too. Just out I think they handled the rebound situation fairly early. I think it was more so they didn't have a lot of scoring. Yeah. It was Tyrese and Joel. Yeah. Knicks don't score a bunch either. They weren't fully healthy, but they can score more than outscore two guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't have anybody, even look at Denver. They had Jamal and Jokic. Those two guys, only guys scoring. You're not going to, like, that's the reason why they lost, because they didn't have the help. Like, Aaron Gordon usually pitches in, MPJ pitches in. In that game 7, those guys had an off night. And if you don't have those guys scoring, it's going to be very hard to win. So, yeah, rebounding as part of defense, but scoring is also part of your defense, and it helps, you win games. So if you don't have that third star, big fish they're looking for the summer, or another consistent star, Tobias had a solid game or two, but they're on his head. He wasn't, to me, involved in the offense or the system to even get opportunity. So for people to be on his head the way they were, it's like, yeah, he could be more aggressive, but it's like, if they're not including it, like he's a guy that's a system player. Ultimately, he's not a guy that's going to be KD 1-on-1. Let me get in my mid post. He's like, I need a pick and roll. I need a play. I need a post up. If you don't do that for him, he's not going to be involved in the game. He'll rebound, he'll defend, but he's not going to score a bunch if you don't, let him draw some things up for him or let him listen to him. So ultimately, it's that you guys lack the scoring and we're looking for it. And Kelly, some games will step up. Batum will step up some games. Kyle will step up. Tobias some, but it wasn't consistent. Like, we know we're getting this from this person. It was like, we need some guys to step up here. And if 2 or 3 of them don't step up and we only get one or two of them stepping up, we're probably going to lose the game.
You mentioned Ben in that game, and you were there for the Atlanta series that ended with the famous Ben ending. I'm wondering, as a teammate of his, us watching it, that final pass that everyone knows about, the pass to Matisse that he didn't dunk, was a big moment, but you could almost feel it coming as that series evolved. And I was wondering, as a teammate of his, if you could sort of see that and feel that, and how you deal with a teammate that sort of gets in his own head the way that happened.
It happens to everybody, man. Like, when you're a young, immature athlete, and most guys are immature because the maturity, that level you need to not think about things when things aren't going right. Like, if you miss a couple shots, now you think it. Like, even you've seen Klay Thompson. This guy's a vet. He's been around for a decade, one of the best shooters in the history of the game. And he had slumps where it's gotten in his head when he's thinking about it. It's not because he can't shoot anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, he obviously is very capable. He's very skilled. He can still play the game at a high level. We've seen it last year. This year was just more of a mental thing. So it happens to everybody. So especially at that age, I didn't see it coming, because when I'm watching it live, on social media, you can see the numbers like, oh, he's not taking shots in the forward court. He doesn't want to get to the free throw line. But when I'm watching the game, he was still defending. He was still making plays. So I'm like, all right, we're cool. But that one was glaring. That play was like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? Like, when it happened live, I was like, something's wrong. You know what I'm saying? Something's really up. But Ben, even the way things ended, it ended pretty shitty, like, for not just with him, but for the group, because we thought we were closer with him than how it played out. But I enjoyed playing with him. He made the game easy for me. I got, career attempts. He's the reason why I signed back with Darryl with the Sixers, and was like, because I had opportunity. I think it was between them and Cleveland. And it was like, Cleveland wasn't good then. We weren't sure what they were going to be. And they weren't a playoff team. They happened to be a playoff team. And I could have, been a part of a change in a group. But I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for rebuild yet. And I was like, I know for sure I'm going to get attempts here. I'm going to get to play here and play with a guy like Ben, where I don't have to be the primary defender and I can get up shots. And we're going to play at a good pace. And I was getting career high in attempts. I think it was getting like 6 a game. So I enjoyed playing with him. He made the game fun and easy. I guess some of the off-court things, some of the mental part of the aspect of the game made it tougher for him and for us to kind of gel with him, I guess. But during that time, it was just a weird space of like, is he playing? Is he here? What's going on? We could use him. But it became a blessing in disguise for Tyrese. He got thrown in the fire early and got a chance to grow. But Tyrese is going to be special anyway, because he was a really good kid, really good player. But it just happened sooner for him than later, which was great. And I'm happy for him. I love to see that he's getting all these awards and get all the limelight that he deserves, because he's a worker. He's an unbelievable kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it comes to anybody that deserves it more, like, nobody deserves it more than this kid. So, but Ben's situation, I didn't really see it coming like that anyway, until it happened. And it was like, you see the numbers like, he's not scoring a fourth. I'm like, well, he's getting free throws most of his shots, but he never was a guy to shoot a lot of attempts, whether it was in the playoffs or not. But he would play defense, and Joel shot most of the shots in the fourth quarter. And then he would find guys, Tobias and Joel mostly. And then we had Seth with us as well, who was going to, Joel, Seth was playing a 2-man game. They shot most of the shots. Tobias was next up. So like, me and Ben were out there. I'm just spacing the floor. If I get an attempt or two, cool. Ben was just like, we needed a glue guy. That's why he was so great, because you have too many guys out there that's trying to score. There's nobody to keep the group gelled. So when he was out, it was Tyrese, Seth, Tobias, me, and Joel. And everybody's trying to get a bucket. So I'm like, we have nobody to set the table. Tyrese learned how to eventually do it, but he's still a scorer naturally. So for me, it's like, all right, I'm the odd man out. I have to be the guy to swing when I'm a shooter. I'm never going to get shots up that way. So it was like we had too many guys in the starting lineup. It was like, all right, we have nobody really to facilitate or set the, like, you need at least two guys that are okay with not, looking for their own in the starting five or in any group that you have.
The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast, we take a quick break from it to tell you something very important, is presented by Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process. All right, what is Briggs Auction? Well, Briggs Auction is a family-owned and operated auction house in Delaware County, 4 generations. But why is that? Like, what do you care for? Well, what you care for is because Briggs Auction has stuff that you needed, that you need, and stuff that you didn't know that you needed. And to me, that is what the glory of online auctions are. I love online auctions, and I love Briggs Auction. The Discovery Auction going on right now. And by the way, you can download the app in the App Store or Google Play, BRIGGS Auction, or you can just go to briggsauction.com. The Discovery Auction that's going on right now is outrageous. CJ mentioned the CJ item of the week is this porcelain Rolex like advertising sign that somebody that had a watch store that sold Rolexes would have in their store. I think it's a Submariner sign. It is up to like $400. Amazing. Wouldn't even know that you needed it. There's a couple of unopened VCRs in there. And by the way, you never know you're going to need a VCR until you need a VCR. It's the truth. I'm bidding on 2 things: baseball card lots, football card lots, furniture. I met one guy when I was there for open pickup on Saturday that was redoing his entire basement, didn't want to wait for a new furniture place, furnished it completely with Briggs Auction. Download the app, go to the site. If you're downsizing and you have stuff of value that you think needs to be auctioned, send an email to info@briggsauction.com. I did mention open pickup all day Saturday, by appointment during the week, and for big items, they can work with you on a shipper. briggsauction.com, Briggs Auction, the official auction of the Ricky.
Playing alongside Joel offensively, you can, space in the floor, the occasional cut, that kind of thing. Playing defense with Joel behind you, what does he do that people can't feel unless you're on the court with him?
I mean, when Joel is active, when he's really engaged in the game, he can change the game defensively, like, unbelievably. But even when he's, I'm saying, and I think a lot of people realize that fans don't realize that players do. And it's like they judge players off of how well they play both sides of the floor. And sometimes they'll make comments like, this guy takes plays off. He doesn't play defense all the time. He doesn't play offense all the time. And I'm like, do you know how much energy it takes to play both sides of the floor all game? Especially when you're the guy they look to carry the offense or look to carry the defense. You see it with Anthony Edwards. He's a young 22-year-old kid, and he could do it in spurts. But to do it the full game, it's hard as hell. So I understand why, sometimes Joel may not have it defensively. But even his presence there is scaring the hell out of people. It's affecting them. He's good with his hands. He has good reaction time. He's a 7-footer, so a lot of times they're not going to paint, they're shooting floaters. But he just adjusts and alters a lot of things that's going on there until he could rebound. So, him just being there, his presence gives you a lot of comfort to be able to get up into guys and make them drive to the basket and finish over him. And I've been blessed to be able to have that big for most of my career. I had Timmy in San Antonio. We had Timmy and Tiago and a bunch of other guys that came through. In Toronto, I had Serge and Marc Gasol. We had Jonas at one point too. In LA, I had JaVale, AD, Dwight. I can now comfortably guard guys on the perimeter and say, you know what, I'm taking away 3, I'm taking away pull-up. If he goes to the basket, good luck going over that guy. You know what I'm saying? Good luck finish over him. My job is to take you so I can guard a Devin Booker easier. If I don't have those guys behind me, there ain't no guarding these stars that way. PG or Kawhi, you can't guard those guys like that without that big there. So that's why when people get on Rudy, they're like, oh, Rudy's not worth this. You get more. I'm like, who are you going to get for who? Who's going to give up, first of all, one of their good pieces to trade for Rudy? But what other big you're going to find that's that good of a rim protector? I know he can't play 5 out, but he's a great rim protector, and he plays most of the season. He doesn't sit out. He's healthy. He's available, and he's always going to be there. So what other guy do you see as valuable or more valuable that can do the same thing? You're not. When guys give people slack or criticize certain guys, and it's he's getting paid for a reason. He's very good at what he does, and he's worth those out, and he's available, so he's worth those dollars.
What was Joel like as a teammate, as a leader, and from a work ethic perspective?
These are very interesting. Let's see how way to put it. He, as a teammate, I think all three, it was more so when I got there, he wasn't young, but the first years I got there, he was younger. He was still learning how to be those. He's learning how to be a better leader, a better teammate. This past year, when I was with him with Nick, I can see, he's matured a lot, and he started to be more involved with hanging out with he was more to himself when I got there. Now he's like doing things to be involved with the group and trying to be a leader, trying to be a better teammate. And also I think after seeing Jokic win, he wanted to, change his game more, but like he understood like certain things needed to happen for his group to be successful, and he couldn't just rely on himself. His mentality was always like, all right, well, if Ben don't want to play and we don't have a point guard, I'll be point guard. You know what I'm saying? Like he was like, I'll do it myself type of thing. And it's like, you need your guys, you need the group, you got to encourage them. You can't and he's good enough to do it. That's why he does it, because he's like, all right, I'll just play more defense, or I'll set the table so I have to bring the ball up myself. But it's like, nah, you need your teammates to help you win. And I think he realized that when he saw how the formula was working in Denver. He's like, I need to probably facilitate more. I can facilitate from the top. In the last 2 years, you've seen his assists go up. So I think he's learned over the past couple of years. He's matured more. And I think also having a kid helps you as a parent mature more and understand how to relate and talk to people or talk to teammates, but how important it is to be patient with certain things. So yeah, I've seen more of it as he's gotten older, of how to lead, how to be a great teammate. And his work ethic, I said, is one of those things that you see it in his results. You see it in his play. You don't see, because I think he hides it from most people. He's not going to work out a ton in front of cameras or people. You'll see him get his shots up and work out some, but most of the time he does a lot of his stuff behind closed doors or in private of his own home or somewhere else, where you'll come back and you'll see him like, is when he came back from injury. He looked like he lost 40 pounds. I'm like, is he on Ozempic? You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm sure a lot of guys had not seen him during that whole time. They probably were surprised by seeing him. Like, what the hell happened to Joel? He's like half his body. So his work ethic it speaks for itself when it comes to you've seen where he's come from when he was, I guess, a sophomore in high school, how bad he was, to now MVP, player of the league. So yeah, his work ethic has to speak for itself when it comes to that nature of it.
You're obviously on the Raptors for the Kawhi shot. What the fuck, man?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they liked me too much when I first got here because of that. I think there was always some type of thing where it's like, he's cool, but we don't really like him that much yet because he beat us in the playoffs that a year that we should have won a championship.
What was it like on the opposite side of that?
At the time?
Mm-hmm.
Or like when I came to Philly and
at the time, in that series, that series being maybe the toughest.
Oh, it was great. So we won. I mean, it was great being on the end of the team that won. Like when he first shot it, I thought it was a bad shot. I didn't think it was going to drop at all. And they had the momentum. Philly had the momentum for sure. And we just couldn't figure out. You guys had a really good team, some guards, some wings, like just pieces that were like tough to match up with. And defensively, like Ben, Joel, Jimmy, like our smaller guards and myself are having a tough time finding it. Like Fred couldn't get a shot off like that. Norm couldn't get shots off like that. So Pascal, Kawhi led the way. Even Kalo, it was a tough series, but everybody played well what they needed to do. But ultimately came down the stretch most of the games. I think we won a lot. Like it was back and forth, winning on home, winning on the road. Some games we won by double digits or so, but that game came down to, if it went into overtime, we probably would have lost, honestly. You guys had the momentum. Jimmy was playing unbelievably well. You had JJ, you had Tobias, you had Ben. You guys had an unbelievable group. But by the looks of it and how the momentum was going, us trying to figure it out, we had home court at the time because we had the advantage, so our fans behind us. But we were up pretty decently, comfortably, until the last minute or so. And then I don't know what kind of run Jimmy was going on. Was crazy. And it's like, now so we got real nervous and tight because I'm like, damn, we were just up 7 or 8 or 9 or something like that. Now it's like 2 or 3 and then it tied up. You're like, oh shit, if we go into overtime, these guys got the momentum. So we got to get a bucket here. So winning, of course, was on the great end of it. Like I'm happy, I'm excited as hell. I'm sure if you're on the other end, you're heartbroken, and it's just a little awkward to coming into that, knowing that I was a part of a group that kind of broke the city and a lot of the guys that were still there. Heart and aspirations of making the finals and winning the championship. So I was just like the elephant in the room for a little while.
It's funny. It's funny you say that you think that the Sixers would have won that game, because my long-held belief is the Sixers would have lost in overtime anyway. It's interesting hearing your perspective.
I mean,
who
people,
knows, right? But
people say like, these certain teams always find a way to mess it up. You know what I'm saying? These teams always find a lose. You know what I'm saying? And so possibly,
11 years
I'm just
of the
going
podcast,
off
Danny.
I'm giving those guys credit, man, their flowers, that they were so good. They were really good. And, so we had Kawhi. Kawhi had an unbelievable run. So we probably could have still won. Like if we had the group, we had good groups. We had Pascal, we had Kalo. OG didn't even play for us at the time. He was hurt. But the way that group was playing and the momentum they had, would have been very tough for us to come out of that one at home. Like it would have been very tough for us to come out of that one.
Talking about that series, so much of it was the Sixers stayed home on shooters in that series. Really, like the Lowry, Siakam, Van Vliet, Serge, like weren't really hitting shots. You were kind of the only one that was hitting shots off the catch, off of Kawhi drives, and it was basically like force Kawhi to hit as many tough contested mid-range shots as he could, and he did, and he hit them, and that's why you guys won for sure. A ton of tough shots,
and we had really good defense. So like Serge, Mark don't. So even though like the game is you have to win, you have to make threes to win, right? Because most of the time you can't win by twos or contested twos. If you had the defense, you can. So we allowed Kawhi to beat teams with the mid-range night in, night out. And we got some threes up, but because we had Kalo, all-team defensive guy, Pascal should be all-team defensive guy, like Serge, Mark, like myself, Norm, pretty good defense. Like we had some good defensive guys, so it always kept us in the game when we could play defense. So, yeah.
But the philosophical question that we talked about all playoffs, because it was a sort of a similar thing in this Knicks series, right? Whereas like, do you help off of Josh Hart to send a double at Jalen Brunson, or do you let Brunson take tough contested mid-range shots against Oubre or Batum or whoever? Josh in that series hit enough to beat the Sixers, and it wide open threes for the most part, and it made you feel stupid as you're like, well, why are we leaving this guy open? When you're on a team playing defense, how do you prefer to send help at the guy that's going one-on-one beating them and leaving guys open and having to rotate? And then on offense, when you see people doing that, do you start licking your chops as one of the best catch and shoot 3-pointer shooters, going like, I'm going to get an easy open look? How do you balance that? What do you prefer, I guess?
100%. Offensively, I definitely prefer guys to go double. Like I'm going to get some looks. You know what I'm saying? Defensively, it depends. It depends on who the superstar is, and depends on who the supporting cast is. It's like, am I okay, Dallas? Am I okay giving Exum threes or Derrick Jones Jr. threes? If they're hitting him, no. But like numbers wise and history wise, realistically, you're like, I'm okay with that. Instead of Luka getting a one-on-one against my big like Rudy Gobert, I'd rather trap him and give up a three to Exum or Derrick Jones Jr. or something like that. Not PJ Washington either, because he's hit some, he shoots it well. But even then, it's like that number to me, we could rotate late to him and contest. So it depends on your superstar and depends on the group around him. Only reason why Jalen Brunson, once again, was able to do so is because they had good defense. They could rebound well, and they played defense enough to where only you guys also didn't have the offense. If you had a normal offense, you would have won the series. But two guys can't score enough to beat a team. So he could win, said y'all can win in the 90s or the low hundreds because – and by shooting mid-range because you guys didn't have enough scoring. But for me, it all depends on the group around them and the superstar. But for like, so when I watched it, I was like, against the Knicks, I was like, yeah, we probably should just let him play one-on-one and just take everybody else away, because he does not win if DiVincenzo and Josh Hart don't score. You know what I'm saying? Like they were scoring because of doubles but also they're pretty good. They cut, they fast break transition. They got some rebounds. They got some chippy points, but like a lot of them were catch and shoot threes. And some of them were shots like that Josh hits in the playoffs. Sometimes he just comes alive and hits these random turnaround fadeaway post up moves or like a double clutch three. And it's like, what the hell? Josh hasn't been doing this all season. He don't even take these shots, but him hitting transition threes, you're like, what the, so when they're hot, you don't want to live with that. But regular season, it's like, you usually do, but when you see it's going in that direction, where Hartenstein's getting some buckets, DiVincenzo, Hart, Deuce McBride, is hurting you. It's like, all right, Jalen Brunson's gonna have to get 60 to beat us, and these other guys were just gonna stay home. but usually you find that out after it takes like 3 games to figure out like, all right, what's going which way.
We take a quick break for an important message to tell you about Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process. Here's what I want you to know. First of all, Ksebe. That's how you spell Ksebe. Ksebe. It's summer, and if you're like me and you don't own a shore home, you go through that annoying process every year of trying to rent one. You spend thousands of dollars to rent a place for 1 week. If you reach out to Ksebe, Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process, what you can do is you can have a partner to buy one, and that way you can rent it out for a lot of the year. You can have it for a few weeks for vacation when you want to go, and you basically have somebody else paying your mortgage. It's not a bad deal at all, but it's a very competitive market, especially down the shore. And that is why you need somebody like Adam Ksebe and his team out of Long and Foster in Bethany Beach. They have the Delaware shore on lockdown. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, you don't know the glory of the Delaware beaches because you're a Jersey Shore person. First of all, Delaware has all of the good parts of the Jersey Shore without the bad parts. It's not overcrowded. I go to Lewis. I love Lewis Beach in Delaware. Bethany is great. Rehoboth, obviously, great. Dewey, great. But first of all, not the crowds. Second of all, the property taxes in Delaware are significantly lower than New Jersey. But you're still going to need a good partner. Ksebe is that partner. By the way, if you're looking for a home or to sell a home in PA, New Jersey, New York, he can't do it for you, but he can still be the resource that you need. Reach out to Ksebe, tell him what your needs are. He will interview realtors and find you the right one. His cell, 302-864-8643, 302-864-8643, or adam@processrealtor.com. Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process. You mentioned Jimmy on that team. Now, the Sixers essentially have like the offseason of all off seasons here. Incredibly important. If you were running the Sixers and players didn't think you were a liar or whatever, if that wasn't a whole consideration, and all things being equal, if you could add Paul George or Jimmy Butler, if you were running the Sixers at this point, who would you choose?
I think I would go with Paul.
Why?
I think Jimmy's a really great player, and he also comes alive in the playoffs. But I think Paul is more available. I think he's more of a skilled scorer, like can score for you, a more consistent scorer. Jimmy's more of a table setter. He's more of a point guard, drive, kick, draw fouls, but like get you involved. So you can't go wrong with either. But I think you guys are lacking the scoring, and I think PG's more of a natural scorer. Jimmy can score. I don't think it's natural for him or it comes as easy as what, but he also has injuries. Like he's not as available during the regular season, and you just never know what Jimmy you're going to get for the most part. But ultimately, to me, I think Jimmy and Ben had similar games. You know what I'm saying? And Joel didn't like playing with Ben, but he didn't have the space that he would like to have when Ben is on the floor. I think it's very similar when it comes to Jimmy. Now, if you get Jimmy, you have to surround him with a lot of shooters as well, so that he can operate. But with Paul George, he can kind of do both. He can space the floor for you, and he can score for you with a second unit, or if you need somebody to, pick up the slack, or, we run some plays for, like he can do that for you. So I think he just gives you more of a dynamic offensively of what you need than you do with Jimmy. Now, Jimmy said he's a gritty, grinded out, gutted guy, like, blue collar guy, which can't go wrong with. He's going to give you more defense. He's going to give you more rebounds. He's going to give you more playmaking. He's going to give you something in the playoffs that's like, all right, this guy can take us another level. But during the regular season, he's not as available as I'm sure most Pat Riley would like anyway. So
apparently, yeah.
What would you say is the most Danny Green type of play? What comes to mind for me is the strong side cut baseline to get to that opposite corner. Would that be it for you? Or is there something else that you think of as your bread and butter
on offense?
Yeah.
Yeah, offensively, that's definitely the back door, fake back door, get back to the same corner, or it's baseline to baseline, get to the other corner three. And it's usually when a pick and roll happens, the defender is looking at the ball and seeing where I can help on the roll, and he has to lose sight of the shooter for a second.
Yep.
So if you get the back of his head and you time it right, or you get behind him and he looks to see that you're gone, now his natural reaction is automatically just run that way. So I'll just go behind him and I'll just come right back to my corner. And that time he's already running. His energy is going that way. So by the time I'm in the corner, I'm open and he can't really get there. But also, so if he's too locked in and I see the ball going that way, I'm going to sprint to that corner as fast as I can, because then I can get an open look on the other side. So yeah, those are definitely the most Danny Green plays you're going to find, especially when it got with age, when it got older.
Now, I want to be clear. I was an enormous Danny Green supporter here when you were here, and there is a lot of evidence of that. Yes, but there were times while you were playing when it seemed like regularly you'd be having some good normal game, and there would be like some moment where like some pass or some shot you would take, and we'd be like, "Why did Danny do that?" And we actually, while you were here, we would talk about like what the Danny of the game was. And it was like one of those things. It was so legendary for us that we have a writer now named Dan Olinger, and his column is called The Danny in tribute to you. So
That's awesome.
I felt like I had to tell you that, but I also wanted to know if you were sort of like at all aware of moments like this.
100%.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay.
100%. I mean, I don't think I took my most efficient shots playing in that system.
Interesting.
And I knew I had to. Like, if I didn't force something, I wouldn't get a look. I would be the guy getting cardio in, playing 20 minutes a game and not getting an attempt to have zeros across the board, because I'm on the perimeter. You're not going to get that many rebounds. Unless I got a steal or like some type of rebounds, I'm not making assists because I'm not handling the ball. So the stats of 0-0-0s probably happen a ton, because it's not like I'm getting things drawn up for me. And so when I have the group of everybody trying to get a bucket, like Tyrese, Seth, Tobias, Joel, it's like I'm the odd man out where I'm probably not going to get a look at all. So I will say I love Doc, but playing for him is not always the easiest as a role player. Of trying to feel involved or get involved. And to me, I always got involved by playing defense. You know what I'm saying? And even then, I wasn't guarding the main primary guy. So if I'm just guarding a guy in the corner, I can't get, you know what I'm saying? I can't get active. So my defense always led to my offense. So if I guarded a primary guy, I'd be more locked into the game. I'd have more energy, ultimately offensively be involved. But if I was just standing in the corner, I'm just getting up and down, going corner to corner, I'm like, all right, man. And a lot of guys did that. We forced up, like there was forced up shots by a lot of guys, starting lineup, bench guys, because of just how I feel like, I'm going to say it wasn't taught or wasn't emphasized, but there was no, you can see in the group, there wasn't a lot of play for each other type of basketball. There wasn't a lot of swing moments. That was easy for me in San Antonio. I didn't go in thinking like, oh, I'm never going to touch. Like, I knew I was going to get some shots or at least touch the ball. At least there was times in Philly where I was like, if I touch the ball, I don't know it might feel like a rock. And I shoot, I'm like, damn, I haven't touched the ball in 10 minutes. It feels like, so there's times it was like where if I got the rebound, it's going up and it's going to be a bad shot. And I probably didn't shoot my best percentages because of it, but you know what? I got to at least see what the temperature's like. I got to see what kind of night it might be for them, or at least show them like, yo, I can hit a shot. And then once they see you hit a shot, they're like, all right, maybe we'll run some plays for them, or your teammates will try to find the ball will find you more. But if you don't take any, they're gonna be like, they're not even gonna think about you. You're gonna be afterthought, like, damn, end of the game, they're like, oh, Daniel took 2 shots in 30 minutes. You know, we've got to figure out a way to get him more shots. Even when James first got there, he's like, yeah, we gotta find a way to get you more looks. I was like, don't worry about me, man. Just do what you do. We'll figure out it'll come. Just the way they play you, I'll probably get more shots. I like when James got there. Didn't get a chance to play many games with him, but I got some good looks in the Miami series. But ultimately, yeah, there was a lot of bad shots taken by Danny Green and many others in that system with the Doc era. So just because I wasn't really used much, even as a decoy or in any system, like not drawing plays up for me. I'm not saying that I need plays, but if you have a team with Ben, where he's going to drive, he's going to find, like if you don't have that guy that can create and looking to do that, it's easy for me to shot. But you don't have that, it's like you got to find ways to get other people incorporated. And even LA, they would draw like a random, like one play, maybe a half, out of bounds or have a timeout, or maybe get the first shot of the game where it's like, all right, I feel involved. In Philly, it was, we're going to Joel, we're going to Seth. Like it was just that, like it was pretty much Seth, Joel, and then sometimes we'll throw in Tobias and Tyrese. I was short end of the stick. I didn't get many things drawn up for me. Which rightfully says that I'm not supposed to be the guy to get things drawn up. But naturally, if you have a team that's playing for each other, everybody's going to touch the ball. Yeah. Or if you have a guy that's a playmaker, like a Jokic, you better believe you're going to get some shots just because he's going to find you with some wild ass behind the neck pass or something across court. Joel was still trying to figure out how to operate in the double team and how to find guys. So we're making it easier for him then. But he wasn't a guy that's a visionary that's going to find you in a weak side corner. Now he will. But early on, he wasn't as good with passing out of the double team. So, and that's why I would do the cut. I would just be running back and forth, trying to get open, trying to get a shot. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you get none, but that's just the role of a role player. That's just how it happens. That's the life of a role player. But ultimately, in certain systems, there's going to be guys, and you can tell when they take bad shots, it's probably like, oh, he doesn't feel involved, or he ain't touched the ball in a long time. Mm-hmm. And that happens. Yeah, that happens quite often over there. So that it wasn't like that in Toronto or San Antonio for sure. Not LA, not so much either. But, you know, we got up and down. We ran more. We had guys. Braun would, you know, find you. Yeah.
Do you watch? Are there guys around the league? I mean, the first most similar guy that comes to mind at first, and you mentioned Jokic in Denver, is KCP. Do you watch what KCP, what the role that KCP plays in Denver?
100%. Yeah,
that's me. That could be me right now.
Yeah, like I mean, I've talked to him since he got there. I was like, yo, I asked him how it was. Like the first time him playing there, me playing against him, I think I was feeling like, yo, I always ask my guys like, how they treating you, how you like the organization. And it's like, yo, and he would tell me like, yo, it's easy here, man. Like, mind you, if you're not where you're supposed to be, he's gonna let you know about it. That's what he said with Jokic. But he's like, yo, if you're in these spots, it don't matter where he's at on the floor, he's gonna find you. You know what I'm saying? He'll be like, yo, be here, be there. And he's like, yo, if you're not there, they're gonna be mad at you. But he's gonna find you. Like at any point, just be ready. You're gonna be open and it's just easy. So he's getting great looks. And I thought Denver was it's a great scenario for any shooter, you know, 3-and-D guy. Justin Holiday had a solid postseason. So yeah, even before the season, I thought like before I signed with Philly, I was like, you know, obviously they won a championship, so people were like drawn to go there. I don't want to be part of, but it's a system just like Golden State, just like anywhere that shoot a lot of threes or get up and down and have a good pace, where any shooter was like, would, let's say, dying to be a part of, but would love to be a part of for sure.
There's all right, I want to ask this question. You played 832 games in the NBA, spread across parts of 14, 15 seasons. According to your basketball reference page, how many career dunks do you have in the NBA?
That's a
Mike
good question,
is a big
man.
dunk guy.
I'm a big dunk guy. I like it when guys dunk. Go up soft. I don't like it
I'm
so
not
much.
I'm not one of your guys. I'm not in the paint much.
Not so much, but you
probably
played a long time.
Probably like 830. I want to say probably when I was younger, I would at least 5 to 8 dunks a year, I would say. So 15 years, I would say like 50. I don't know. 50?
55.
Wow.
There you go.
Okay.
Well done. This is really good.
Good. That's not bad. Actually, when you first asked it, I was like 10. You know what I'm saying? Then I was like 30. I was like, nah, hold on. I played 15 years. Like when I was younger, I would dunk the ball. When like the last 5 years or so, it was just all perimeter. I wouldn't go in there much. And maybe one a playoff, one a year, or to get the team going or something like that, or just to make a statement. But younger years in San Antonio, like, you know, I'll get a good 8 to 10 dunks a year, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's funny. Like, what's it like, you know, going from, you know, you're super athletic at UNC, your guy gets in the mid-range, gets to the rim, and then you're out of the league for a little bit, you're finding your way, you're in the G League, playing international, and then you come back in the league, and then you become really like a prototypical 3-and-D guy, and are a little bit, as we talked about that role player conversation, a little bit forced into just being like corner to corner sometimes, depending on the. What is that like going from I'm kind of doing everything to now I can do more and I'm one of the best basketball players in the world, but like for this team or to have success at this level, mindset wise, I know I got to be Mr. Catch and Shoot.
Sometimes it's within the person. It's maturity. Ultimately comes down to maturity. Yeah. And a lot of times it's not within the player to decide that. Mm-hmm. You know, San Antonio was really good at allowing us to play towards our strengths and away from our weaknesses, but they knew what they had and what they needed. And it's like, we don't need this from you. We have Tony and Manu to make plays. And then they made the decision of who they wanted to groom to be that next guy. And rightfully so, it was Kawhi. And nobody saw that coming because Kawhi was really just a big body with shoulders and could defend. Like, he was really good. We didn't see him becoming that superstar where he can score like that. He developed the 3-ball. He worked unbelievable, developed the mid-range. Like, he changed his shot. Like, Chip England did a great job, but they ultimately groomed and developed him into becoming really good. And that was their decision. Usually it's organization's decisions. But yeah, they make it easy for guys. And some guys will say like, oh, when they're younger, oh, they put me in a box. But it's like, they're putting you in the role that they need you to be in, and that it's best for you. And that takes maturity. And you don't see it in young guys in today's game, or even young, like, because you feel like when you're younger, you feel like in order for me to get paid a lot of money, I have to showcase everything that I can do. You don't have to do that anymore. Derek Lively is a great example of a young guy understanding who he is at an early age.
Yeah.
I don't need to fucking make post moves. I don't need to do this, do hook shots. I roll, I dunk, I rebound, I get rebounds, I kick out and find guys, and I set really good screens. And for him to know that and be like, oh, I can get paid a lot of money doing this. I don't need to do anything else. For him to know that at an early age shows a lot of maturity, a high IQ, and it's just very impressive, man. Like, and so some guys don't they want to be the star. And that's most guys naturally, because you can do it and you've done it on different levels, but not everybody gets the opportunity. Organizations decide who they want to be. Coaching staff decides who they want to, who's the best, and those guys usually earn it, rightfully so. The top draft picks are guys that show all right, they can do this, because not everybody can do that role or play that role. It's not an easy one to sign up for.
Do you want to? You haven't retired or anything? Is your goal to play again?
I have not.
Yeah,
that's the goal, man. I mean, I've gotten some. I wouldn't say coaches offers, but offers of you were looking into coaching, to be interviewed as a coach. So I'm not ready for that yet. And I told them the same. I'll tell you, I still want to play. I did all that rehab to get back. So I want to give myself a chance to play a full season. And I still feel young enough when I'm hooping. And preseason, I feel like I did well enough and prove not just to them, but to myself that I belong and that I can still hoop, at this level. So, yeah, I want to give it a go. I want to play for another year or two. I think my body can. It's all about the opportunity, right? And once people don't see you anymore, they kind of forget about you. And I'm not trying to campaign for myself, but if it happens here, cool. If it doesn't happen here, it's a discussion. I've done some media things, so it depends on what the media offers on the table too. Media offers a deal for me to come in and we want to do this with you. And it has to be something great for me to hang it up, hang up the shoes officially, because ultimately I want to play, and that may be here, maybe somewhere else, maybe in another country. But ultimately, yes. I have not retired yet. I do want to play. So,
are you in Philly? Do you live in Philly?
No, I do not.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely not.
No, when you were saying here, that I didn't know what
in America.
In America,
yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. I live in LA.
That absolutely not was hilarious, man. That was
unless you're from there, I don't see many people just saying, "Oh, I'm gonna make this home." You know what I'm saying? Most people that live in Philly or stay in Philly are from there or have a job that keeps them there.
Yeah, there are. I think the athletes that are here a long time, the Eagles players specifically, end up staying here because they end up being heroes. But when you're here for 2 years or something, I could imagine being it was fine.
I still think if you're a hero there, I just don't. Charles Barkley is a hero there.
But he still has a place here. He still has a place here. He does. Now he lives in Arizona. No, right.
He ain't living there.
Yeah.
And so I can get, if I have a lot of money, I can keep a place in San Antonio or, Toronto, but I'm not living there full time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He has a lot of money. So there's heroes that ain't living in Philly.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the city, but it's just not the most sexy city to live in.
Sure.
Yeah. It's not LA. I can tell you that. It's certainly not LA, and it's not New York. It's not Miami. As Sixers fans, should we be it's been a lot of letdowns year after year after year after year after year, even though we have, one of the best players in the league and Maxey who's ascending. If you are us, would you be optimistic about the next few years?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with Tyrese. I mean, you have Joel. He's not old. You still got Joel in his prime for another 2 or 3 years. And those two, and Jamal, you know what I'm saying? You just have to find the right pieces to fit around them. But ultimately, one of the best duos in the league, especially in the East. So I'm very optimistic with cap space. Now it's upon Daryl to, get it done. Figure out, why they gave him that extension. He's got to, put the pieces together to make it, flourish.
Well, inside the green room, before you came, I mean, we talked about a lot of the bunch. Before you come on, we'll make sure we give that a big plug. But 6 years is a long time. A lot of players come in and out of this podcast game and do not stick around. So 6 years is a pretty long time. So
appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
it's a hell of a run.
Yeah.
Also, I gotta say, my wife, who's a Lakers fan, is a big Danny Green fan, and she plays ball, and she's a Danny Green type of player.
Awesome.
So if is there any advice that you have to adult women playing your style of basketball in the rec leagues?
Keep doing it, man. Keep representing for the Danny Greens of the world, the role players. I wasn't the first of my kind. I learned and watched from a lot of other people. I watched a lot of role players just be, the best role player they could, like Derek Fisher, Robert Horry, even like Jeff Hornacek, like this random guy, Steve Kerr, but there's guys that I watched. And those guys are just as important as the stars, if not more important when it comes down to, executing it in the playoffs, because they help the stars win. So just keep representing for the Danny Greens of the world. And I appreciate the support always. Love the shirt too, by the way, my man. That's a dope shirt.
So we talked before. I was like, do you think Danny Green is going to notice that I'm wearing a Danny Green Raining Threes Like a Boss t-shirt that I found at a vintage store? I was so excited, but you did notice. So
yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I think a lot of players notice a lot of little things.
Yeah. Thank you, man. We appreciate you.
For sure. Anytime. Definitely. I'll take it easy, man.
All right.
Good luck.
See you, Danny. Danny was great.
The Danny.
Does not his reaction at the end about the Philly thing was just
a little telling, wasn't it telling?
He was just like, no way, absolutely not. So thank you to Danny, who we even asked him about the Danny, and he sort of knew intrinsically that the Danny exists. So that was good. So thank you to Danny Green, Inside the Green Room, where you can get anywhere, Audacy app, or anywhere you get your podcast. You have anything else before we say goodbye?
Do you want to have the Celtics Mavs conversation, or should we wait?
No, we have a pod before that.
We have a pod before that.
Yeah, we have Pod Tuesday. Honestly, the Pod Tuesday is really going to be Celtics Mavs. And then we also have to check back in on the chapstick controversy. And then the AI voice, the British AI voice for 1.5 seconds of the beginning of the last pod, that also has to be discussed as well. So a very, 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 packed pod on Tuesday.
Well, another busy off season for us.
Yeah.
Gotta love playoff time for your local Sixers podcast.
Yep. All right, we'll talk to you next time. Are you done with TTP?
Yeah, you know the guys.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
Then I won't fuck with you.
but if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you! Time for plan B.